In Greece, we've got a deal, whether you like it or not. And right now, there is 7 billion euros that are being injected into the Greek economy to keep them afloat. There was a vote in the parliament in Athens. There was an internal revolt in the Syriza party. That's Prime Minister Alex Tsipras' party. He fired 4 of the ministers and a deputy minister who rebelled. He reshuffled his cabinet and then passed this deal with the Europeans comfortably, but the streets were not comfortable. The government might have agreed to it, but it doesn't appear that all the Greek citizens have. Now remember, this is a deal that was in some ways universally thought by the experts to be worse than the deal that the Greek population just rejected in a referendum. So you can understand why people are upset. Now, I don't believe this is the proper way of dealing with being upset, but obviously there were people in the streets, we can show you, and fires, obviously. Also part of the anger is there's still financial controls in Greece. Cash withdrawals are still limited to 60 euros a day. And imagine in America if they said no one can take out more than 80 bucks a day out of their ATMs. I don't know what would happen, but I do know it wouldn't be pretty. Reuters says protesters threw dozens of petrol bombs and hurled stones at the police, who responded with clouds of tear gas. So, look, let's keep it real. The protests in Greece are oftentimes far more violent than the ones that we are used to here in America. In America, we're quick to call things riots when people gather to protest things like police brutality. Immediately, well, it depends on what race they are, but usually we'll call it a riot. If they're white, we'll just call it party goers after a hockey game. And in Greece, no, they're throwing those firebombs at the cops. And so it is a real battle in the streets, a real showdown. I don't think it's the right way to go. I remember in one of the earlier rounds of unrest in Greece, there was a poor bank teller who was shot. Oh, they go into a bank. Oh, I'm angry at the banks. They shoot the employee earning the lowest wage there, a poor bank teller that had nothing to do with anything. So senseless violence is never the answer. I understand and empathize with the Greek people's frustration. I've talked over and over on this show about how the Greeks shouldn't be mad at the Germans and the Germans shouldn't be mad at the Greeks. The reality is private bankers gave these loans to Greece, and if the loans didn't work out, which happens all the time in the business world, well, then you take a certain, portion of that, you pay back as much as you can, and the others you write off. That's called business. But the richest people in the world have no interest in capitalism or how business is supposed to be done or free markets. No. So the private banks went to the big European countries and said, just give me the money, give me almost all of it back, and I'll dump it on your lap. So now it's the problem of the French people, the German people, Belgian people, and you go down the list, right? And so now they pit the people against one another, and the Germans got this unbelievable deal from the Greeks that continues the austerity that is not going to help their economy, which makes it even harder to pay off the debt. And they're stepping on the back of the Greek people, and so the Greek people are now fighting back. Does it help? No. Are any of the bankers who originally made the loans there? No. Have they targeted any of the right people? No. Is it a bad idea? Yes. But they're pissed. They're pissed. See, this is part of the reason why you don't make such a deal. You make a reasonable deal so that both sides can get something back and we can get back to normalcy. But no. When it comes to finances, the banks have to get everything and everybody else has to get nothing. And if that doesn't happen, who cares? Let there be blood in the streets. So almost everyone involved in this situation is wrong. The private bankers were wrong. The Europeans were wrong to bail out not Greece, but the private bankers. I'm not convinced that the Greek government did themselves any favors with this whole process of first rejecting the austerity measures, then accepting it. And in the case of the actual people in the streets, don't throw firebombs at cops or anyone else. They have families too. They're human beings too. They're your fellow Greek citizens too, okay? Don't have somebody go to their house and say that their dad's never coming home. That's not the right way to do it. And if you're going to be angry, for God's sake, do it in a constructive way. So find a way to politically say there has to be a better deal than this, where yes, we pay back our creditors to the best of our abilities, but we get back on our feet and get a proper and just solution. Unfortunately, for the moment being, that's not the world we live in. Young Turks.